So I can take 15-second breaks to have a sip of my
Yeah,
juice.
because I'm going to edit it. So
Yeah, great.
you can do whatever you want.
I won't do it in the middle of an answer.
Well, it depends how noisy you are.
Hi, I'm Dan Okrent. I'm a writer, mostly of history, exclusively of nonfiction, but earlier in my career, I was a baseball writer. And I think it's through my affinity and I think it's through baseball that Jane and I built an affinity for one another.
So how did you're the person who introduced me to Jane Levy. Thank you. And how did you meet her for the first time?
I think some friends of ours, Rob Slater, who used to be the executive editor of Sports Illustrated, who was an old pal of hers, Rob and his wife, Marilyn Johnson, were visiting them in Truro and called and say, can you come and see us, or can we come and see you? I think it began that way.
You were the first public editor of the New York Times after following the Jason Blair scandal. And you wrote a lot about various professional practices that a paper like the Times should be following, including use of anonymous sources. And it seems to me that things have gotten a lot worse in that regard, at least in particular. And I'm wondering what your take is on things that have happened since you voluntarily stepped down from that position.
I can only speak directly to the Times because I don't follow other media closely enough to notice. The Times is somewhat better about it. They did institute a policy that maybe came out of my whining, that they have to explain why they're granting anonymity. But I must say, 75-80% of the time, the answer is basically because he didn't want his boss to know that he was talking to reporters. I mean, that they're not all that interesting or all that informative, but at least they make a nod in that direction. I think it's still a terrible thing in the newspaper business and in much of the media. I don't think a lot of readers or viewers believe that the anonymous source exists.
You once told me when Joe Kahn and I were interviewing you for Provincetown Arts Magazine, and Joe referred to you as a Renaissance man, and you said, I hate that term. I prefer my wife's term, which is serial compulsive. And you said
serial obsessive.
Oh, okay. So I've been saying that wrong for 20 years. But and you said, for example, when I was into scuba diving, I knew every fish in the ocean. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, is there anything that's got your attention in a deep, obsessive way now?
Well, yes, but it's professional. I'm writing a book about Stephen Sondheim, so I am thinking about and reading about Sondheim all the time. But in terms of my avocational life, no. And that's been one of the surprising things about my retirement. I mean, I haven't really worked for 4 years, and I did not pick up new obsessions. I've been enjoying myself.
So I'm going to ask the question regarding Sondheim a different way, and I'm going to pin you when I do that so that I have just you and not me in this. So let me ask. I'm going to do it as you start to talk. So what are you working on now?
I'm writing a book about Stephen Sondheim. I wouldn't quite call it a biography because it's going to be a fairly brief book. It's a biographical essay, I would say, or it's an essay with a lot of biographical detail. It's part of a series that the Yale University Press started maybe a dozen years ago called Jewish Lives. And there's nothing that the people in it have in common or that the books have in common other than the subject happens to be Jewish. And in Sondheim's case, he was never in a synagogue until he was 19. He didn't know how to pronounce Yom Kippur until Leonard Bernstein told him how. He was really, in terms of religion, barely Jewish, but he was culturally quite Jewish. In any case, I won't really be writing much about his being Jewish. I'll be writing about him as a composer, a lyricist, and as an individual, and how his life was intermeshed with his work.